Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zakka Jocob. There was massive drama today in the BJP versus AAF face-off that we've seen in the national capital over the last 10 days or so. Today, there was a dramatic twist in the tale as Anna Hazare, the founder of the India Against Corruption movement, remember it was that movement which made Arvind Kejriwal shoot to fame. He wrote a letter to Kejriwal today expressing utter shock and disappointment at the liquor capital that Delhi had become. In fact, Anna Hazare went on to say that Kejriwal was drunk on power. The Delhi Chief Minister has also hit back saying that this is nothing but politics. This is the BJP using his old mentor to get back at him because they can't seem to pin him down politically. But should the Chief Minister, his deputy, come clear on the liquor policy of Delhi? Was there corruption involved? And if not, should they submit themselves to an investigation? And most importantly, Manish Sisodia today, after the CBI search of his locker in a public sector bank, came out and gave himself a clean chit.
Another day, another twist to the Delhi Liquorgate saga. A team of CBI officials reached the Punjab National Bank branch in Ghaziabad to search Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia's locker. Sisodia was at the bank with his wife, and as crowds gathered to see what was happening, CBI carried out the searches. Hours later, Sisodia gave himself a clean chit.
जैसे मेरे घर में कुछ नहीं मिला वैसे ही लॉकर में भी कुछ नहीं निकला। मुझे बहुत खुशी है इस बात की कि प्रधानमंत्री जी ने मेरे घर पे रेड करा दी। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने मेरे घर की पूरी छानबीन करा के तलाशी करा दी, वहां से भी कुछ नहीं निकला।
Amidst the drama, social activist Anna Hazare shot off a scathing letter to his former mentee, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, criticizing the now scrapped excise policy, which is at the heart of the Delhi Liquorgate saga. He wrote, and I quote, "This does not befit a political party born out of a big movement. You too, like other parties, seem to be caught in the vicious circle of power through money. You brought the new liquor policy, which will increase the consumption of liquor and vends opening in every lane. This is not in the interest of the public and would lead to corruption. The way liquor intoxicates someone, there is intoxication of power too. You seem to be drowned in the latter." Unquote.
जिसमें महलों का तकलीफ होगा, मुझे महसूस हो रहा है अरे उस टाइम ये अरविंद क्या क्या बोल रहा और आज सब तक पैसे के नशे चली गई।
Kejriwal was silent on Anna Hazare's criticism, but put his weight behind his deputy.
आज लॉकर चेक किया, लॉकर में भी कुछ नहीं निकला, तो एक तरह से इनफॉर्मली तो एक तरह से सीबीआई की क्लीन चिट मिल गई है। बाकी सीबीआई के ऊपर प्रेशर है पॉलिटिकल रीजंस की वजह से।
The opposition meanwhile kept up the pressure. BJP held massive protests outside the Chief Minister's house, carrying flags and raising slogans against Kejriwal and Sisodia.
एक साल इनको काम करने दिया गया था और इन्होंने दबा के भ्रष्टाचार किया। देखो अन्ना जी के कंधे को यूज करके यहाँ पर आया था ये।
It's not just the excise policy. An alleged school scam is also haunting the Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi. So has Kejriwal forgotten the anti-corruption stance that he started out with over a decade ago?
So has Kejriwal moved away from the anti-corruption plank? That's the charge from his one-time mentor, Anna Hazare. Kejriwal, of course, saying that this is just politics. It's the BJP using his mentor, Anna Hazare. Let me now bring in our guest, Shehzad Poonawala, BJP spokesperson here in our studios. Abhinandita Mathur is spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Abhijit Majumdar, consulting editor with First Post. Mohit Paul is an advocate on record with the Supreme Court. And Professor Dheeraj Sharma is author and director at the IIM Rohtak. Let me start with Abhinandita Mathur, the spokesperson of the AAP. This is what Anna Hazare has written in his letter to your party chief, Mr. Kejriwal, that he is drunk on power. Kejriwal has forgotten his own ideals after joining politics. He has quoted from Mr. Kejriwal's book, Swaraj, to remind him of his earlier stand towards liquor, that he was anti-liquor, he was pro-prohibition. This is what a one-time mentor of the Chief Minister of Delhi has written to him. Isn't it embarrassing at the very least, if not, duplicitous of the Delhi Chief Minister to have changed his stand on the liquor policy?
Thanks, and good evening to all your viewers as well. Nobody is surprised by the day-to-day sort of strategizing of the BJP to somehow pull down or attack or force some allegations on the Aam Aadmi Party and Mr. Kejriwal. Because the truth is that they're actually not able to find anything, neither in the liquor policy nor in the education policy, in nothing actually. And we are very grateful to the BJP for actually, coming up with a new allegation every day, because that essentially exposes them very badly.
No, but Abhinandita, this is not the BJP. This is Anna Hazare who's saying this.
I understand. And I think that firstly, I must also clarify that we hold Mr. Anna Hazare in very high regard. We respect him immensely. He's guided this movement that led many of us to, join the movement and therefore the formation of the party. So with due respect to him, it's very unfortunate to see that at the moment, he's just being misinformed and used by the BJP. And there is enough evidence for that, because obviously perhaps the BJP people who have, spoken with him have not actually briefed him about the policy.
What is the evidence that BJP has forced him to do this? And also, doesn't that discount Mr. Hazare of any agency or individual thought that he can come up with whatever his opinion is, as is evident in this letter?
Well, we do respect his opinion, like I said, but we are the capital. We stand by this policy. We also think that this is a progressive policy if it was implemented properly, and the LG did not change his stand, and the LG himself was not changed. So we really actually stand by the policy, and I think all your viewers will understand.
I have Shehzad Poonawala of the BJP here in the studios. This is what Mr. Kejriwal has said very briefly when he was speaking along with Mr. Sisodia, that whenever his rivals say something, people do not listen to them. They bring someone forth. During the Punjab elections, they said Kejriwal is a terrorist. People started laughing at them. Therefore, they brought Kumar Vishwas forward. Now they are firing off Anna Hazare's shoulder. This is what Mr. Kejriwal has said.
First of all, Zakka, obviously they don't care for their old mentor because they have a new mentor called Lalu Prasad Yadav. Secondly, she said that nobody has found anything against them. Here's the High Court finding against Satyendra Jain that he has a criminal background. There's also a trial court finding that there should be a case done against him because prima facie is guilty of Awalabazi, and a 2019 High Court order. Thirdly, Anna Hazare, forget now you're insulting him, you're putting allegations that he's a BJP agent, although they've not given proof of that so-called audio, 800 crore audio. Now no proof of this also. But tell me, he has written about Swaraj. Swaraj book says that 90% women will be asked before opening a theka. अरे पाठशाला मांगा था, मधुशाला खोला, और वो पाठशाला में भी क्लासरूम को पाठशाला टॉयलेट को पाठशाला बता दिया, and the fans are following from that. But tell me,
in all these searches, once again, in all these searches that the CBI has done over the last many days, tell me specifically what is the charge of corruption against Sisodia or other public officials' names?
Yes, so the specific charge of corruption, first of all, this case was put forward by the LG to the CBI 1 month ago. So even a pocket mar, when he steals something, does not keep it under his bed. So surely Mr. Manish Sisodia is a more elaborate scamster.
No, you've done multiple raids. What have you found?
So the main points are that 2.5% commission of the L1 was increased to 12% without the proper rules being followed. Now, madam, I'm telling you what is the...
Once again, Abhinandita, I'll come back to you. I'll give you a chance to respond. Okay, 2% to 12%.
Yeah,
okay.
2.5% to 12%. Secondly, the operational period of the licenses was increased without the proper rules being followed. The cabinet had said no for Mr. Manish Sisodia to take any decisions, yet he took these decisions. Fourthly, there was a show cause notice. No manufacturing and retail companies, manufacturing and blacklisted companies could come into retail. In fact, there was a show cause notice against Indo Spirits, but they did not take any action on this company. Fifthly, they allowed the number of thekas to be increased from 2 to more than 2 without the due permission. Apart from that, they allowed a 30 crore EMD.
Out 5 things. I'm asking you again, and I'll go back to Abhinandita to respond to you. Where is the corruption?
The corruption is that there were people like Vijay Nair. I don't need to elaborate who that is for the Aam Aadmi Party. There were people like Anand Pandey. He belongs to one news channel also. And look at the links of that news channel with the Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson. And then there is another person called Dinesh Arora, at whose place Mr. Manish Sisodia used to often visit in the night. These people were the money collectors, the cash collectors. The FIR also specifies
on
how
cash
of Mr. Manish Sisodia. Meetings used to be held in an Oberoi room. Deals used to be tailor-made for this excise policy. I'll give you one specific instance. The L1 of Delhi and the L1 of Punjab is the same guy called Amandeep Dal. Is it a coincidence? And that person is a friend of the Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson.
Abhinandita, respond. I've been asking the BJP, including Shehzad today, what is the corruption? Where is the corruption? He's just rattled out 5 instances of corruption in the liquor policy.
Right. For the last 2 months, the BJP is making sure that the country's time and prime time is wasted on a bogus case and a bogus allegation. The
What sense
CBI
is
is
bogus?
doing its job. The FIR that they have filed actually does not, take into account anything that Mr. Poonawalla is stating. Also, Mr. Poonawalla is the last person that we need to learn loyalty from. I mean, we also don't know who he will be speaking for. Which
Come on,
party
what is
You
this
were
got to
with
do
the Congress in
loyalty?
2013. You talking about my loyalty? You were with the Congress in 2013.
One second, this is not a debate about loyalty, it's a debate
I
about corruption.
understand, but because
No, it's a
just
debate
to
about
put it in
corruption.
context,
Please respond to the charges
just
he
as
made.
You were not loyal to Anna Hazare.
You
You're loyal to Lalu.
One second. Abhinandita, this is not a debate about loyalty, it's a debate about corruption. Please respond on point, please.
Got
Thank
it.
you.
Got it. Only because he had pointed out, I thought I should respond to that as well. You must understand that the CBI has made charges. The CBI is doing its work. Of course, every spokesperson of the BJP today, because the CBI has not found anything and has not even, charged Mr. Sisodia of corruption in the FIR. So obviously,
That's a
the
lie.
BJP
He's
people
accused number one.
at the moment.
She has blatantly lied. She
Okay.
blatantly lied. He's accused number one. How is
all
the Aam Aadmi Party getting away with this?
Okay,
all the
one second.
instances-
She needs to be factual.
Yeah.
Mr. Poonawalla, only because I must say
Are
this.
you saying
that
Manish
this is
Sisodia is
because
not named in the FIR?
format, you
No,
can't just
being
sit
named in
with
the
some
FIR does
paper
She
not
said
make
that
it.
he
No,
was
no.
not in the FIR.
No. She said he's not charged with
I'm
corruption.
saying
There is no
that
charge
the
sheet in
You're
FIR
accused number
right now.
one. You're accused number one in an FIR does not mean you're guilty of corruption. But that's not the point. Anandita,
She
please.
meant
No,
that
one
there was
second.
no
One
name
second.
of Manish Sisodia.
One second. No, that's not what she
No,
said.
I did not mean that.
No,
I did not mean
Abhinandita,
that at
I'm
all.
asking you a specific question. Shehzad said there were private players who were blacklisted who were given L1 licenses. There is the same guy who has L1 in Delhi as well as in Punjab. The main guy, Mr. Arora, who's also been named in the FIR, there are pictures of him with Mr. Sisodia in his residence. What's the relationship? You're not clarifying on any of these points.
Well, that is for the CBI to find out. And like I'm saying, we stand by the policy. We've done nothing wrong. And, we do believe that this is a progressive policy that actually brings the state, to some accountability.
Okay.
Unlike, for example, the state of Gujarat, where, there's a liquor ban and 100
Okay,
people
this
have
is
lost
not
their
about
lives.
this is not
You
about the
realize,
liquor policy or the lack of it in Gujarat. It's about the liquor policy of Delhi.
caused.
But anyway, Abhijit Majumdar,
Yeah, 5
the
seconds.
1 second. The point that BJP has been raising and Kejriwal has been responding for the last better part of almost a month now is this back and forth politically is going on between BJP and AAP. The moot point that AAP is saying is this is political. They have seen how AAP has done well in Punjab. Now they want to squeeze the funds before the Gujarat elections because the BJP is paranoid that AAP might make inroads in Gujarat. Is there political merit in that argument or is that just bombast?
No, Zakka, of course, this is political. Everything is political. But what we should actually look at is where does Arvind Kejriwal stand today vis-a-vis the Arvind Kejriwal of
12, 13.
10, 11, 12, 13.
Yeah.
He was accusing everybody else of corruption and, he was bringing down, bringing up names every day at press conferences, etc., etc. But, what has happened, what has been happening for the last few months, it is not just bombast and allegation. There are proper, for instance, even more damning than the liquor policy complaint, I find, because the liquor policy complaint, we must understand, is in its, a nascent stage of FIR has been filed, there has to be investigation, etc., etc. And it's surprising that Mr. Kejriwal is coming out after the CBI has, just opened Manish Sisodia's locker and giving himself and Manish Sisodia a clean sheet. Would the, Arvind Kejriwal of 2011-12 do the same thing? He wouldn't. The other thing, even more damning than the whole liquor policy, I personally find, is the, the whole case, the CVC report, the vigilance report on education and the, construction of classrooms, toilets being, passed off as classrooms, and the budget going through the roof, escalating.
No, so Sisodia spoke in the
So,
assembly about it today, and I just want to quickly mention that, Abhijit, before you continue. He says that, what is the accusation? We promised we'll build 100 classrooms, we've built 500, so is that a crime?
No, but those 500, that figure is not, according to the vigilance report, it is not, things don't tally because, you cannot pass off classroom toilets as classrooms. and
Okay.
it says that they were, the construction of the cost was utilized for the construction of 4,027 classrooms against 6,133 that were to be constructed.
Okay.
So these are serious, and especially in the area
Shehzad
where
has
you
some
are
documents
getting,
which he wants to show.
Yeah, just 5 seconds taking from what Abhijit is saying. First of all, they escalated the tender cost of 860 crores to 1,300 crores without a tender. You can't do that. That's a violation of CPWD and GFR work manual guidelines. That's a clear-cut violation. Secondly, this is a Zakka. This is classroom for the Aam Aadmi Party spokesman. This is toilet. Toilet can't be passed off as classroom. You see, you can't do that. They passed off toilets as classrooms, and by the way, they have escalated the cost by 500 crore rupees, and the Lok Ayukt has also taken cognizance. It's not just the CVC inquiry report. Manoj Tiwari and Parvesh Verma filed a complaint with the Lok Ayukt. There's a Lok Ayukt report also. Thirdly, there is a Hawala scam of Satyendra Jain has been established by the High Court, by the courts. The CVC and the Lok Ayukt has established this scam. And yet they say we are cleaner than everybody. And what about if they are so clean, they have nothing to hide, and the liquor policy was so good, why did they go back on the liquor policy?
Yeah, you scrapped the liquor policy after 8 months. Abhinandita, respond. Liquor is one thing, okay, the back and forth is going on between your party and the BJP. But what about this education scam? Your model was touted as the best model for education and for health. We all saw what happened in the second wave of COVID. But education, the CVC report flagging that you had budgeted for far more classrooms and you had built fewer.
We must actually bring on board some of the parents and the students who are studying in our school and, benefiting from the holistic approach of the Delhi government when it comes to education. I think it is a matter of great shame that we are, here discussing कि इतना extra toilet क्यों बना दिया गरीब बच्चों के लिए, ये extra classroom क्यों बना दिया, whereas in the same breath, we should be also asking questions about, how the Adhyaksha of the BJP was caught red-handed doing a deal in the Raksha department. Then there are, they were
actually... I didn't follow that. Say that again.
I mean, the chief of the BJP was caught at one point red-handed doing a deal in the...
How is that relevant today?
A defense deal. No,
this is a child on whose head a fan fell. Zakka, this is a child. 1 second. Please zoom this picture. I request the CNN News 18 to zoom this picture. This is a girl from Nangloi on whose head a fan fell because you constructed substandard rooms which you costed 33 lakhs to the taxpayer, which shouldn't cost more than 5 lakhs. This Nangloi girl is trying to battle for her life. She tells me...
One second. You're in power in 17 states. Yeah. Are you telling me you have better government-run classrooms in the states that you're in power than in Delhi?
Zakka Jocob, the 700 schools out of 1,027 schools don't have principals. 418 don't have vice principals. 40,000 EWS seats have not been filled. 22,000 guest teachers have been sacked. 45,000 teacher positions are vacant.
The past percentage... One second. This is not a debate about schools, it's a debate about liquor policy.
Thank you. That's why I'm coming to liquor policy.
Percentage of Delhi schools... One second. The past percentage of Delhi schools is far higher than any other city. You can go back and check CBSE records. But let me get an advocate. One second, I'm going to my next guest. I'm going to my next... No last word. No last word. I decide... One second, Shehzad. I'm the moderator of the show. Let me decide who I go to.
It's come down.
No, it's fine. Fair enough. It's still better than other cities.
68.9 is not better than other cities.
Let me ask Mohit Paul and Mr. Dheeraj Sharma. Mohit Paul, I come back to the liquor policy. The point is simple. If there has been corruption, there has to be an investigation. The CBI's investigation is at its nascent stage. From what we know in the FIR, there is one transaction of 1 crore rupees which has been shown as one of the 4 public officials who has been named. He has supposedly received. That's what it names in the FIR. How easy or difficult would it be for the CBI or any investigating agency for that matter to be able to prove that the policy was changed, A, to benefit private players? That might be an easier part to prove. But the benefit or the proceeds of that crime then came back to these public officials, because that is the circle of corruption, and that needs to be proved in a court of law.
The second part, I believe they will only be able to do if they have a government approve. There's someone who turns approver in this case, One of the accused will have to turn approver. He will have to point fingers that he did this, at whose instructions he did this. All that needs to be done. So it can only be proved once they actually manage to do that, because otherwise there is no trail which comes. There will be no paper trail. So therefore, it will be very difficult.
Why
to
is
do
it difficult to find a money trail? The money would have traveled. I mean, if it's gone from government to private player, from private
Yes, so
player
they'll
back
have
to
to
government.
unravel it. You see, yeah. Zakka, what happens these days is it's very easy to form shell companies. You have shell companies and shell companies. There are companies which are sold. You have offshore companies. The paper route which takes place for these transactions is it's hidden in such a manner that it's very difficult to unravel it. We have seen that happening time and again. Prosecution agencies facing this difficulty in multiple cases, as a matter of fact, because it's extremely difficult. You have these offshore holdings wherein people get monies are invested, and who is the end beneficiary? It's very difficult to unravel. So that's the reason why there will be difficulty in proving it on paper that easily.
But what about in the court of public opinion?
Well, court of public opinion, the elections are the best judges of that. I was hearing some interesting debate about the fact that this is political. To be very, and this is an offshore because of the elections which are coming up in Gujarat. But that's not true actually. You see, in our country, we have elections coming up every 6 months or maybe at least once a year in one state or the other. So for that to happen and everything to be given a political color would not be fair, because then the agencies will not be doing any work and they'll be sitting idle.
Yeah, got it. That's a fair point. Okay, Dheeraj Sharma, again, I come back to the liquor policy. The premise of the liquor policy was, why should government alone run what is clearly a revenue-generating exercise or a revenue-generating option? So the premise was, why not open this up to private players, give choices to the consumers, and let the consumers then pay, even if that means paying more, so be it. Now, here is the thing. Obviously, alcoholism is a social evil. It has to be consumed within restrictions. But is it the remit of the government to get out of businesses or sectors where it has no expertise in running, rather let private players run that, and then if you want to tax it higher, go ahead and tax it higher?
Oh, I think, the fundamental debate here is, first of all, which is a better policy? I mean, the current one or the previous one? I don't know if significant amount of attention has been paid to demonstrate whether what was going on was, any less than what is being proposed. That's point number one. Point number two, from a policy standpoint, when you have these policies which come out, I think they really require some inputs from various spectrums. We keep asking people why governments are more and more becoming, directing rather than taking a consultative approach. I don't believe that consultative approach has been taken. And number three, I'll just pick up on the last point that you were asking. In the code of law, I don't know how things will transpire, but we were just analyzing the opinions online and in general in terms of doing dipsticks in the Delhi area.
Yeah.
And it is quite evident that now that image of holier than thou has really received
Taken a
some
beating.
dent.
Okay.
And people are beginning to question that, where the original ideological standing was a particular, of a very high level, projected as a very high level and very, very moral and so forth. And the analysis of 40,000 tweets done by one of our centers here in our institution indicates very, very clearly that in the opinion battle, I mean, they're already taken it on the chin, I would say.
Certainly, I mean, that whole sort of pedestal or, baki sab chor hain, we are the only good guys around. I think it's a fair point that Professor Dheeraj Sharma is making, that seems to have taken a bit of a beating. But please, Abhinandan, respond to the charge, the specific charge. You're going on and on about how great a policy this was. If it was so great, why did you discontinue it in 8 months? You could have persisted with it.
We have actually clarified this a number of times, that the reason to take back the policy was that we are not being able to implement it in the way. I, partly agree with Professor Dheeraj that from a policy point of view, yes, whenever you go through some reforms, you have to actually take a lot of things into account. And one has to work as a team, with taking account for all stakeholders and so on. I think the policy is definitely in the right direction.
But ma'am, if it was in the right direction, why did 30% of the shops shut? They found it uncompetitive. That's why they shut.
Well, because the LG Sahab at the time also changed some things 2 days before. As we know, we've discussed this many times. I've heard this on your channel, this discussion on your channel as well. The policy ultimately had to be taken back because we weren't able to implement it. The officers were petrified. You look.
No, you're not getting my point. You introduced a policy.
Go to Mr. Sisodia's house.
Let me just clarify it for our viewers. You introduced a policy where the number of shops went from 400 odd to 800 odd. Within the first within the first 4 or 5 months, that 800 odd shops came down to about 600. About 30% of the shops closed simply because they were not finding it worth their while to sell products. They were not making money. That's why they shut. So this was a bad policy even before, as you say, LG Saab changed whatever he changed.
Look, I think that, I take your feedback. However, I must say that I don't think that the policy was even properly implemented yet, for us to critique it in this way.
Okay.
I'm repeating this, and as a policy, person, and from policy point of view, I must say that, every policy takes good intent and good implementation and good accountability. I think we're trying to speak. Let me finish, please.
Zakka,
just a minute, let me finish.
Called upon me and the time on the show is limited.
One second, Abhinandan, please yield. I've asked Shehzad to respond.
The problem is not just Zakka, it's my time, and this is not one pay one free. Zakka, the point is that first of all, it's not just about the policy, but the implementation of the policy, which was flawed, where rules were broken. The GNCTT Act.
She's saying you guys never allowed them to implement it properly.
Then till last month they were saying it's the world's best policy. We've earned the most revenue. And today suddenly it's become the world's worst policy because of the LG intervening in some manner. So, these are all figments of their imagination. Zakka, I thought it was my time to speak.
No, speak.
Zakka,
absolutely speak. They are saying the policy is good because revenue went up to 1,300 crores.
Let me now please explain to you. First of all, that's a lie. The sale of liquor, whiskey and wine went up by 60, 70, 80%, even though they claim the shops shut down and they couldn't manage this policy. But the Sarkari revenue did not go up. Let me give one instance. 750 ml of a bottle used to earn the retailer 33.35 rupees earlier, and the government income on that 550 rupee bottle was 329. That government income fell to 8 rupees per bottle, and the retailer income, the Theka's income, went to 363 rupees. It was a windfall for the certain Thekas, which were not given, by the way, by lottery. Secondly, the report of the committee of Ravi Dhawan said wholesale should at no level be given to private players. It should be kept with the government because there could be monopolization. They went ahead and gave wholesale to private players. Who would ask them to do that? Nowhere did it say increase the commission from 2.5% to 12%. It said do a lottery policy. They did not follow that. It also spoke about how there should be no blacklisted and manufacturing companies to come in. A blacklisted company comes in, a show cause is issued. What action did they take? This is not policy, this is implementation.
So Abhinandita, very quickly, how are you then saying that your revenues went up to 1,300 crores from 800 or 900, whatever the previous policy's figure was, when, as Shehzad says, the amount of revenues that per bottle you were getting had been slashed down by some over 100%?
4,000%.
Yeah.
4,000.
You will have to give me 2 minutes. I don't think I can scream and shout in the same way, but there is one thing that I can't resist calling out because it's in the benefit of our audience. Sitting with papers and repeating lies and throwing some numbers on primetime TV does not make a lie truth. Okay, that is one thing that our audience understands. Well. The other thing that I must mention about
do you know who Ravi Dhawan is? Do you know who Ravi Dhawan is? Do you know the Ravi Dhawan committee report?
The other thing that we must point out...
Madam, are you calling the Ravi Dhawan committee report a fake report?
Is the context in which...
Is the Ravi Dhawan committee report a fake report? Please tell me.
Happening. So...
Is this show cause a fake show cause notice? Is the show cause issued by 25/10/2021 by the government of Delhi Excise Department against Indo Spirits for allowing Khao Gali, a blacklisted company, to get a zone? Is it a fake notice? Yes or no, ma'am?
Not working. It's not working.
It's not working. No, you may think it's not working. Your ads are not going to work to absolve you of the corruption you've done. Please, let's get that clear. Your victimhood is not going to absolve you. Your whataboutery is not going to absolve you. You standing up in assembly and taking a floor test is not going to absolve you.
Okay. Let her respond. Okay. Do you have a response? He's throwing facts and figures at you. Do you have a counter to that?
Well, I'm saying that the CBI is doing its job and he is very free to join the investigation if he wants. But every day,
should a minister be in his position when the CBI is inquiring him?
New figures.
Should a minister be in his position when the CBI is inquiring him?
One second, Shahzad.
Should a minister be in his position if the CBI is inquiring him?
I plead.
Should a minister be in his position when the court has remanded him?
Sir, please, let her respond.
I think it is within my right to highlight the larger political context in which this is happening.
Which you have. All I'm asking you is, do you have a counter for the numbers that he's throwing? Do you have a counter?
I dispute these numbers, and the CBI is doing its investigation, and let them do it.
Okay.
Because every BJP spokesperson comes up with
be in his position when the court has not granted him relief after 3 months?
I can think of a number of ministers who are still in their position despite. Anyway, let's not go into bygones. But let this be said though. Let this be said. Irrespective of the political context, the fact of the matter is this case will have to be either proven or disproven in a court of law. And I tend to agree with what Mohit Paul has said. This is the tragedy of our criminal justice system, that it is so difficult to prove corruption against public officials because money trails can't be proven unless, of course, there are approvers. We'll see if in this case that turns out to be the case. Meanwhile, let's move on to the other story. We're getting a piece of breaking news, and this is an important one. This is concerning the Hubballi Eidgah Maidan story. There's going to be an urgent hearing, a middle of the night hearing at 10 p.m. tonight. The Karnataka High Court will hear a plea challenging the government's order allowing Ganesh Chaturthi rituals at the Eidgah Maidan in Hubballi. Remember, there were two grounds. One was in Bengaluru, the other was in Hubballi. The Bengaluru one, today the Supreme Court basically said that there will be an interim stay. But as far as the Hubballi one was concerned, the Karnataka High Court had given the go-ahead. Now that has been challenged. The hearing will happen in side chambers of Justice Ashok S. Kinagi. Earlier, the Supreme Court had ordered a status quo with regard to the Eidgah Maidan in Bengaluru. Let me go across to Ananya, who has more details on this. Harish will also be joining us. Ananya, first things first, it's pretty extraordinary that you're having a middle-of-the-night hearing after the High Court itself had ordered the municipal commissioner of Hubballi, to take whatever decision he deemed fit. Why this middle-of-the-night hearing?
Yes, Zakka, so what we have gathered from our sources and the lawyers we have been speaking to is that after the orders of the Supreme Court of India, a three-judges bench of the top court headed by Justice Indira Banerjee giving out its, orders in the Bengaluru Maidan matter. Now, these orders have been taken up and been placed before the Karnataka High Court single judge bench, and those appearing, the petitioners in this particular case had told the Registrar General of the Karnataka High Court that such an order has been passed by the Supreme Court of India, and hence a reversal of the single judge order that has been given out in the afternoon in the Hubballi matter is also required, and hence that's the reason that a 10 p.m. hearing is taking place in chambers of the single judge bench of the Karnataka High Court. And definitely we also tried speaking to certain government lawyers, sources who clearly are on their way back to Karnataka, and hence a similar time was sought by them to at least come back and prepare for the matter and to give out their counter arguments in this particular matter also. But then what we know as of now, and seeing the position of law, definitely a order might come in, a status quo order can come in, because remember that these are the orders of the Supreme Court, and they are binding on all of the lower courts that are there. In fact, Karnataka High Court is somewhere or the other a little lower than what the Supreme Court is, and hence we can expect a similar order coming in with regards to Hubballi Maidan as well. So somewhere or the other a jolt to a government might be coming in. But then what is very, very crucial to note is that a late night hearing taking place at the Karnataka High Court single judge benches chambers. So we'll have to wait and watch as to what comes out of it. But then
let me also go across to Harish, who's our reporter on the ground in Bengaluru. So one matter, at least for the moment, seems to have been settled. But in the Hubballi case, there is this urgent hearing, a late night hearing that's going to happen inside chambers. What had the court ruled earlier today when it asked the municipal commissioner there to go ahead and take whatever decision he deemed fit?
Well, Zakka, in fact, there was an important reference to the divisional court's order, the divisional bench of the Karnataka High Court's order in the Bangalore Eidgah Maidan case that was referred when this particular order was given out late in the afternoon today. And once the divisional bench order was set aside by the Supreme Court, the petitioners believed that they had a very solid ground to once again approach the Karnataka High Court and inform the court about what happened in the Supreme Court and the fact that the division bench order has been set aside and a status quo has been ordered. And since that was the case which was in a way used as a reference point, this order too has to be now altered is their argument before the Karnataka High Court now in this late night hearing. Looks like the petitioners, Anjume Islam, seems to have a strong case, especially considering what's happened in the Supreme Court and the order that came out around 6 p.m. today, and similar arguments likely to happen in just a while from now.
All right, we'll see how the judge, or which way the judge is inclined. Remember, of course, the facts have materially changed after the Supreme Court order earlier today, which was basically a status quo, at least for the next couple of days. No Ganesh Utsav celebrations at the Idgah Maidan in Bengaluru. Now the Hubballi folks, the petitioners in that case, are hoping to use that as some kind of a precedent, if you will, in legal terms. And they have approached the Karnataka High Court, which has given this, granted this extraordinary late-night hearing, which is going to happen inside chambers. Meanwhile, talking about Bengaluru, as I thank both Harish and Ananya, that's not the only big story from the Garden City. In fact, one spell of rain, just one bout of rain, was all it took for India's IT city to be completely underwater. There were shocking images that emerged from flooded roads, submerged cars, and this is across the city, the Outer Ring Road, the IT corridor, the showpiece parts of Bengaluru were all completely waterlogged. That aside, almost every week there are also reports of pothole deaths. The question is, and this has been a long-running feature, this has been a recurring feature for the better part of the last 10 to 15 years. How long and why should the citizens of Bengaluru put up with this glaring civic apathy? But first, the story.
This is the IT city of India. Roads have turned into rivers, cars are submerged, and people have no choice but to wade through knee-deep water. One spell of rain has left Bengaluru underwater. Take any part of the city and you'll get the same picture. One of complete apathy.
Whether it's Bellanduru or road connecting Bengaluru city to Electronic City, both of them were inundated. Office goers had a tough time navigating these roads. At the same time, the big-ticket Bengaluru-Mysuru highway expansion project once again got exposed. Around the Kumbalgodu area, the road was flooded and traffic between Bengaluru and Mysuru was affected.
Roads connecting the city to tech parks were completely inundated. In Bellandur, the lake overflowed and water gushed into streets, leading to massive flooding. Commuters faced nightmarish traffic due to waterlogging. Yesterday, the 10-lane Bengaluru-Mysuru highway, which is set to open to public in October, was underwater. Vehicles were washed away and authorities were forced to divert the traffic through other routes. Whether it is waterlogged streets or deadly potholes, the civic apathy in Bengaluru is glaring. But how long will citizens put up with this mess?
All right, we have on the panel this evening two very prominent and articulate Bengalurians more than anything else. Mohandas Pai is chairman of Iron Capital and Harish Bijur is CEO of Harish Bijur Consultants. Mohandas Pai, I'll start with you first. I mean, I wish we had a different topic to talk about as far as Bengaluru is concerned, but this seems to be a perennial woe. For the last 20 years, we've been talking about floods and monsoon and what a single bout of rain can do to the infrastructure mess in Bengaluru. The question is, I think it's become high time. Somebody needs to identify what the problem is and how to fix this problem, because it seems to be even beyond political. Neither the BJP nor the Congress nor the JDS, at different points of time, these parties have ruled the city and ruled the state. None of them seem to be able to fix it.
Zakka, it is a lack of governance in Bangalore. We have a corporation called BBMP, which is broken. They do not have permanent employees. It's a very corrupt institution which has not paid contractors for the last 2 years. They have a habit of creating works on paper, not doing it. It's been captured by MLAs and the corporators who are no more today. And there's a distinct lack of governance. And the city has become very big. We have one commissioner for 1.2 crore people, 800 square kilometers and odd, a city with a GDP of close to $140 billion, more than many states.
Yeah.
A broken down administration with no governance, no expertise, everybody busy making money and deep corruption. So every time something does happen, the chief minister allocate money, they will draw projects, they will show the spending on the ground, till nothing will happen, and again it starts all over again. The BBMP has not got his accounts audited for many years.
No, Harish Bijur, the thing that is absolutely shocking about today's rains is that the parts of the city that got completely flooded out, Outer Ring Road, the IT corridor, Belandur, these are all showpiece parts of the city. These are not parts of the city that have been standing for the last 100 years. These are parts of the city that have come up in the last 10, 15, maybe max 20 years. These showpiece parts of the city, the IT corridor, which is supposed to be the pride of Bengaluru, if it's getting flooded out after one bout of rain, then surely Bangaloreans are well within their right to ask, why is it that a first world city has third world infrastructure?
Well, the key thought is that we're a world-class city. We're very good with our software, but we are very terrible with our hardware. Every bridge, every underpass, every road, every piece of infrastructure, physical, is what we're not good at. And I think it shows a lack of, attention, a lack of attitude to build world-class stuff for the city. We seem to want to put band-aids on problems rather than create real solutions for problems.
No, so Monas Pai, the political parties don't want to take responsibility because they are just using Bengaluru as a milch cow. It gets more than 50% of the taxes in the state come from the city of Bengaluru. They are happy to make money out of that. The BBMP is as good as dysfunctional. As you've been saying, there are hardly any mayors. The mayors are not accountable. The bureaucrats couldn't care less. Clearly, the commissioners can't seem to be able to do their job. What I want to know is, there are municipal corporations in other cities also. And you can say that they're not doing a world-class job, but certainly they're doing a better job than what the Bangalore Corporation seems to be doing.
It can only be fixed by a strong chief minister and a strong party. But sadly for Bangalore, many of the legislators of Bangalore don't want a strong corporation, because in their constituency, I'm told they take away the orders, they give the orders, they take a cut and do many things. Many of them are extorting money from real estate developers in a particular area. Everybody's got a hand in the till and there's no punishment. See, Zakka, the basic thing is we got a broken down justice system. If somebody is corrupt, the person must be caught and prosecuted within 3 years. You'll be very surprised. For the last many years, we don't have a waste contractor at all. I'm told the matter has gone to court. There's a stay order and nothing has happened in the lower court. And some 10 families have captured the entire business. So money is being paid to them. The city is dirty. Contracts are done by some people who capture the entire system, and it goes on. I met 5 chief ministers over the last 20 years. Most of them have pleaded helplessness. They said we'll do it. They're not able to do it because the MLAs control everybody.
Okay. Harish, one of the things, at least this time around, one of the contributing factors for the mess that we saw seems to be the fact that, you look at the city, every part of the city is dug up for something or the other. In some parts, it's metro work. In some parts, it's flyover work. In some other areas, it is drainage work. In a third area, it is white topping. I mean, how can you have a city that is so dug up and all this construction material and the construction debris, all of this lying around in monsoon season? Shouldn't this have been fixed? I mean, the metro, the Bengaluru metro. I mean, I've lived in Delhi for the last 20 years. The Delhi metro has come up in 2, 3, I think max 5 years. The Bangalore metro has been under construction for the better part of the last decade. And frankly, none of us know when it's even going to come up. Harish.
Zakka, is the lack of management. Look at the metro. Metro is 3 to 4 years behind schedule. We don't have a firm date when they're going to come. Metro is run by IAS officer. I don't know whether they have the competence. We are now told they don't have a project management system to manage projects. It's come in the media. They're spending 35,000 crores. They don't have a project management system. Look at what happened in Delhi, what Sridharan did in Delhi. And wherever the metro work is going, beneath the metro work on the road, you can't travel. The whole road is gone. There are debris and everywhere. Where they finish the work, they don't clean up the damn place. There is no inspection by, the senior officers. There is no inspection by the minister. Everybody is happy doing what they're doing and pontificating and giving us lectures. Look at the quality of life. I have not seen an improvement in the quality of life for the last 15 years, irrespective of government.
All right, Harish, I'll give you the final word. I mean, has this also contributed to the mess that we are seeing in Bengaluru? In the summers, it's all dug up. In the winters, in the monsoon, it's all washed out.
Zakka, this is a point of angst as far as I'm concerned. The city has been a work in progress city, not for 1 year, not for 2, but for 4 long years. Now, does it take 4 long years to put something right? We have a stretch out here called the Indira Nagar 100 feet road. That road has been like a war zone for the last 2 years. So if you really look at it, I think, it's this business of saying, why open up wounds all over our city when we can't patch the wounds which we have already opened up? So I think, this is a lack of planning. This is a lack of attention. This is a lack of thinking for the good of the people by and large. And every political party does this, as you rightly put it. It's not about one political party. It's status quo and tech.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. The next time I have both of you on the show, I really, really wish we could talk about something positive, not about yet another instance of Bangalore being either rained out because of the monsoons or, struggling because of pathetic infrastructure. But we'll leave it at that. We'll take a quick break here on the program. When we come back, there were dramatic scenes unfolding at a railway crossing in Uttar Pradesh, as well as more stories right on the other side when Brass Tacks returns. We're back in 2.